Hi, it's Tim and welcome to the corner. Today we are looking at this. This is an Iomega Zip drive and we are going to try and connect it to our Amiga 1200 and see if we can make it work. So let's do it. So the Iomega Zip drive came out in 1995 and it lasted through till the early to mid 2000s. Now it comes in three flavors. This one is a parallel drive. It plugs into a standard parallel port and it has a pass-through so that you can plug in a printer or whatever. It also came in SCSI flavors, IDE, USB. The early ones were USB 1, later versions were USB 2, and later versions even came in Firewire. It takes discs that look kind of like a 3.5-inch floppy. The difference though is that these are 100 megabytes. And as far as I can tell, it came with two flavors of disc. This is a PC 100 and this is a Mac 100. So they were pre-formatted and they have a shutter on the front just like a regular 3.5-inch floppy, but if you open them you'll see that the media there's just this tiny slot to get to the media. Also on the back there is this little retro reflector. And a retro reflector is a thing that reflects light. It doesn't matter what direction you shine the light at, it reflects it back exactly the same way that it came from. So you can say, it's like cat's eyes on the road, or high-vis jackets, or there is a retro reflector on the moon, so you can shine a laser at it and it doesn't matter where you shine it from, it will come back. They come in little plastic cases that look kind of like a CD case. They open in exactly the same sort of way. This one happens to be a yellow disc. They came in pretty colours. So 100 megabytes on a disc. And when they first came out, these discs were about $20 each. But they did come down in price quite dramatically. However, by the early 2000s, CD-ROMs, CD read-write, they were getting so cheap that these just lost ground. And apart from a few niche applications, they kind of disappeared. So, short-lived, but still 100 megabytes. So these first came out in 1995, which was a year after Commodore went bust. So they kind of missed the Amiga by a year, but there were still plenty of Amigas about, and they actually were quite popular with Amiga users, especially big box Amigas, because they are basically SCSI devices. Even though this has a parallel port internally, it's still a SCSI device. And unfortunately, we have a small problem. The parallel port for these and the parallel port on the Amiga are not quite compatible. So we need an adapter to go between the two. And fortunately, thanks to our good friends at PCBWay, we have an adapter. And basically this goes between the parallel port on here, the parallel port on the Amiga, and the joystick port. And it takes some extra signals that it needs from the joystick port. And of course we need a driver for it. And the driver is called PPA Zip. And we can get that from Aminet, and I will put the link to that in the description below. So I guess the first thing that we're going to have to do is build up this adapter. So let's do it. So this is going to be a pretty straightforward and hopefully simple build. We've got the circuit board. We've got two 25-pin D connectors, a female and a male. The male goes into the Amiga, the female goes into the zip drive. You see the zip drive has the male, and it goes that way up because there are more pins on the top than there are at the bottom. So you can see that that lines up on there and that lines up on there. So it's simply a matter of connectors at both ends. Now we need a cable to run to the joystick port, so I've got a regular D connector 9-pin for the joystick, and I have a choice of, we need 5 wires, so this is actually 6-core cable, or we can use this. Now this has the advantage, it's sort of ribbon cable and it's intended for breadboards, but it can also go to a pin header, and we've got the little right-angled pin header here which we can put into that 5-pin. That plugs into there. That is going to provide a bit of strain relief. If we use this cable, then we're going to have to either solder onto these or solder or, you know, sort of crimp those kind of things on there. And yeah, so I think we won't use that, we'll use this. Now I'm going to put it on the underside like that, simply so that I can then tape this down, because that's not going to be a very stable connection. If we put some tape down there or some hot glue or something, that will just add a little bit of strain relief. And then that goes, and you can see it's just numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. And it's actually printed on here or embossed on here what the pins are. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So let's do it. I'm going to use a clamp just to put this in and basically clamp it together. And then we can solder it. This is our regular 1.2mm chunky leaded solder. Now this board is a shared project from PCBWay. They actually have 3 different shared projects for this same board. All of them are slightly different, and it doesn't really matter which one you pick because they all do the same job, and I think they all come in at $5. So just go for the one that you like. One of them even has a buffer on it. Put up the links in the description and you can take your pick. Minimum quantity is 5, so they work out at $1 each. These are solder bucket style connectors, and maybe not the best idea for this particular job, but they are what I had. And I'm a great believer in using what you've got lying around rather than going out and buying things special. Right, and for this, what I'm going to do is connect these up before I solder the board on, or at least solder the connector onto the board. There we go. Now for this other end, what I'm going to do, so you can see the colours coming off here. Black is 1, white is 2, grey is 3, purple is 4, blue is 6. And there it is done. So shall we try it out? We've got the hardware, but in order to make the drive work, we need to install a driver. And for the zip drive, the driver is called PCBWay. And we can find that on Aminet. And here we are. This is the URL. I will include that down in the description. So, parallel interface Iomega Zip driver. And this is the download link. We just click on that. Save link as. It's going to go into downloads. Yeah, we want to download that. So that's done. Now, the problem we've got next is that this is an LHA archive. And here we are, 81K. But in order to get it onto our Amiga, we need to copy it onto the Gotek. And in order to do that, it needs to be inside an ADF, because Goteks can't handle wild files just like a SD to IEC can, which is another thing against it. And to do that, we need to create a ADF, and to create the ADF, we're going to use a piece of software called ADF Opus, and here you can download it. It comes from sourceforge.net, and again I will include the link. So I've already got this downloaded, and we can go to that. ADF Opus gives us, we have to work inside the UI. We can't drag and drop from within, I was going to say from within Finder, from within, what is it called? Explorer. Right, so what we need to do is say new ADF, and I'm going to call this PP. Actually, no, we need to browse to the downloads folder. Okay, and then in the downloads folder, call it PCBWay zip.adf. Create, and there we go. That has created our ADF file, 880K. Now from within here we can open the ADF file, there we go. It's a Finder-like interface, sorry, Explorer-like interface. Right, just refresh that. Here is our ADF, here is our LHA file. So we just need to drag and drop that into here, and that's it done. So the LHA is inside of our ADF. All we need to do now is copy that onto our USB drive. Here we are. And let's take it to the Amiga. Back at the Amiga, everything here is connected up. Plugged in. The zip drive is plugged in. Now we need to power it. It is powered by a 5-volt wall wart, standard sort of barrel jack, but it's got this nice recessed area that makes it fit in. So here we've got the power supply. It is quite chunky, output 5 volts, 800 milliamps. So we can use a modern power supply that is much smaller and lighter than that, but this is what we've got for now. So this just plugs in there like that, and you route the cable down the channel. There we go. So it will stand up quite nicely, or lie down quite nicely also. And that is going to plug in. Turned it on, 2 lights came on, that is the power light. Now we're in Workbench, we've got our little USB stick, which I will plug in. I've already set up the Gotex so that this drive is going to come up. PPA zip. Now there is absolutely nothing on this Amiga. You'll remember we set it up last time. And so we are going to have to install, and I need to show all files. So we're going to need to install LHA, and I've put the self-extracting auto-run thing of LHA there, as well as PPA zip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy those to the RAM disk. Whoops. I'm so used to modern computers where that would not unselect. Okay, so right, we can get rid of that now. So on the RAM disk, and I am going to show all files here, we need to run this, and that should extract the LHA program. So now we can bring up a CLI. There we go. And we should be able to extract using LHA 68020, because this is a 68020, the PPA zip.lha file. So going to LHA underscore 68020 space E to extract PPA zip.lha. I even got it right. Hurrah! So that has extracted PPA zip, and we should probably need to close that and reopen it. There we go, we've now got PPA zip, and in fact we can just get rid of that so we only see the icons. We've now got PPA zip. And we can open that, and we need to go into Workbench. We need to take PPA zip.device and put it into devs. And the other thing we need to do is DOS drivers. The Zip0 and Zip-C drivers, this is what allows us to read IBM formatted zip disks. We copy those into DOS drivers, and I suspect we need to reboot, so let me take this out. So here we go. This is actually a different Amiga because I had to take everything down last night to do something else. So this is my other Amiga with the 6888882 coprocessor. You can see that underneath. And it has the real floppy drive. Everything else is set up as before. So we've got the Iomega adapter, plugs into the joystick port, zip drive. I've installed PPA zip on this machine as well as on the other one, and we have here a zip disk. Zip disk goes into the drive. The drive spins. And there we go. Zip 100. so we can have a look. I really don't know what's on these. So they came off eBay. 50ways.exe is a program that comes with every zip disk. It's basically on there. If it's an MS-DOS formatted disk, it's on there. It's just a sort of demo thing. 50 ways to save your data. I have no idea what that is. Okay, we have a bunch of XLS files. Not particularly interesting. Okay. Like I said, I don't know what's on these discs, so we'll just have a look at a couple. Here's another one. I think this came as a batch of 5 discs. Songs. There's a WAV file. I don't have anything installed at the moment that can play WAV files, but presumably we can get something. Suggestions in the comments, please. I don't know what these MRK and GPK files are. Maybe if you know what software created these, that would be interesting. Another WAV file. I'm guessing it's some sort of music program or synthesizer or some similar. Do let me know in the comments if you know. Some of these discs come in pretty colours, others of them don't. So I'm going to go back to one of these discs that had Excel files on it. And then let's see if we can format it. Format disk. Let's call it Amiga Zip. "95 megabytes capacity, 21% used." Let's just do a quick format. And there we have an Amiga Zip disk with a trash can on it. Let's just copy something onto it. Let's copy the README from PPA Zip. There we go. Now we need something to read that on a different machine. So this is our Amiga formatted zip floppy or zip disk. 100 megabytes. Now we can't put a parallel zip drive onto a Mac because Macs have never had parallel ports. We can't put it onto a modern Windows PC because modern Windows PCs don't have parallel ports, and also Windows 11 no longer supports the zip drive. We could plug that into an old version of a PC, like a 386 or something, but I don't have one. That might change. What we can do is use this. Now this is another zip drive, and I got it off eBay for the princely sum of 15 quid, and it is a USB drive. We should be able to plug that in to anything with a USB drive, and hopefully it will show up just as a storage device. We can give it a try. Should we do that? Let's try it on the Mac. Okay, so we are on my iMac. The drive is plugged into the USB port, and let us try the floppy. Sorry, zip disk. Right, so light. Sounded positive. There it is, it's come up. Let's open it, and here is the README and the INF and our trash can. Let's open that and we can read it. There we go. That's a lot more text on the screen than you get on the Amiga. And to delete it, or rather not to delete it, to eject it, we can't just press the button because this is a Mac. And so on a Mac, what you have to do is eject it and it will spit it out. So there we have it. We have been able to read this zip disk on a Mac that we wrote on our Amiga and formatted on our Amiga. And we can go the other way quite easily. And now we have easy data transfer between Mac and Amiga or PC and Amiga without having to go through ADF files. And that has got to be a double thumbs up because it means we don't need the GoTech to go from one machine to another. We don't even need our PCMCIA card to go from one machine to the other. We can do it on a floppy, or at least not a floppy, we can do it on a zip. So if you've got this far, thank you for watching. Please check out my Patreon. Current patrons are scrolling up across the screen, and I will see you next time. See ya. Bye.